Today I'm joined by Alisha Esmail, entrepreneur, strategist, and a powerful voice at the intersection of AI, purpose, and human performance. She has built impact driven companies, reshaped ethical business models, and now guides founders towards a radically different truth. You don't need to sacrifice your well being to create something meaningful. Her work reminds us that sustainable success isn't about pushing harder, but about designing smarter and living with intention. Welcome to the show, Alicia. It's such an honor to have you.
Thanks for having me, Anya. I'm excited to be here.
So, Alicia, you often challenge the idea that burnout is the price of ambition. What moment in your journey made you realize that big impact doesn't require self exhaustion?
For me, it was going through burnout for about the third time. And I had gotten really physically ill. I ended up in hospital, and the doctors weren't really sure what was going on. And my platelet count was so low that they were like, try not to leave the house because if you get injured, you might just bleed out. So it was going through a really difficult health situation that made me realize there needed to be a different way to do business because the way I was doing it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And when leaders first hear this, do they feel relieved or skeptical?
I mean, most people feel skeptical because culture tells us we have to work really hard to succeed. We constantly have to sacrifice. We need to give, give, give. And there are aspects of that that are true, but to the extreme, that can be very harmful and have the opposite effect on your business. I think a lot of times we're so focused on growth, we'll do whatever it takes. We sacrifice ourselves, but if we're not happy, if we're not healthy, it's really hard to build a company that's going to be sustainable long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that initial reaction says a lot about the culture of overwork. Many of us have unconsciously normalized it.
Absolutely. I think it's expected from us for a lot of times, from our family, from our friends. And, I used to be the worst at this, but I think we often wear burnout like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I'm so busy, I'm working so hard. And we make it sound like we're so important and it plays into our egos. When really I think the real brag, the humble brag is, yeah, I have efficient systems. My company's growing without me. I'm able to rest and enjoy life and be making a meaningful impact in growing a business.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. And your five tanks framework is such a holistic approach to high performance. Which tank do you see entrepreneurs draining the fastest?
I usually see the emotional tank. I used to think it was the physical tank because, we're burning the candle at both ends. We're skipping meals. We are skipping the gym and just, work, work, work. But oftentimes it's the emotional tank. So whether it's not dealing with disappointment, taking the stress and just shoving it down internally, eventually that comes out. And it comes out in really difficult ways, in ways that I like to call emotional shrapnel. And so sometimes, we say things we shouldn't, we blow up our relationships at home. We can, take it out on our staff if it's not dealt with. And so it's really important that that emotional tank is filled because when it's empty, it can cause a lot more damage than some of the other tanks. And sometimes it can be irreversible if you damage a relationship too far past the point of return.
Yes, absolutely. And also, when they start refueling that specific tank, what shift shows up first in their work or relationships?
Biggest shift that shows up with the emotional tank is being present. A lot of times we are so busy, we're on to the next thing mentally before we even get there. When all people really need is a few minutes of our time just being present and focused. And once they have that, they're energized, they're ready to go for the day. That's it doesn't matter whether it's your staff or a customer. People just want to feel seen and heard and a part of something bigger. And so showing up emotionally is one of the biggest wins leaders can do nowadays, especially in the age of AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's often surprising how one restored area creates momentum in every direction.
Oh, absolutely. And all the tanks are connected, right? It's not like they're siloed separately, but our emotional tank affects our physical tank, affects our mental tank and our spiritual tank. And so I would say like it's not just focusing on one, but making sure all areas of our life are being monitored and filled intentionally.
Yes, definitely. And you've built companies with both profit and purpose at the core. How does intentional business design protect founders from burnout?
Being intentional with our design helps us stay on track. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. You know, that's a famous saying for a reason because without a plan, you just default to what you know. And none of us naturally just know what to do. We have to learn the best way or a better way to do things. Without a plan, you will end up in burnout. Without a plan, you will end up, blowing up the relationships you care most about. Without a plan, you won't scale your company. And so having your non-negotiables ahead of time is ideal. But even if, for those that are listening today, even if you don't have your non-negotiables to protect your energy and protect your time, the best time to start is today. What is one thing you can do to shift your calendar? One thing you can do to protect your energy that will, in result, better your company?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And also, do you find that clarity of purpose can actually streamline decision making instead of complicating it?
Absolutely. Clarity of purpose is something I always had, but it wasn't as clear as it needed to be. So, big picture, I always knew where I wanted to go and I had the vision, but I needed real clarity on the steps in between because that's where I would get distracted. And distractions are the biggest pitfalls for any founder or entrepreneur, right? Something shiny happens here and we get distracted. We go after that. And then, something else comes up and we think, oh, maybe we should be doing that. But the best thing you can do is follow one vision, one clear offer until you get to a certain point and then start adding in different things. But without that clarity, it's easy to go off trail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and purpose also tends to filter out unnecessary noise, which can be the biggest energy drain of all.
Absolutely. I've gotten distracted so many times by unnecessary projects or unnecessary tasks, especially some of the smaller tasks. And that's where having an executive assistant or having somebody that works virtually or now implementing AI to keep you focused on the things that only you can do. But I would say one of the biggest challenges for founders is they do tasks they shouldn't be doing, that they need to trust other people to do so that they can do what only they can do. And ironically, that's usually the things that give them the most energy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And AI is a major part of your mission now. How do you see automation helping leaders reclaim time and protect their energy?
AI and automation can transform businesses and lives in ways that we're only just starting to understand. The world is about to be completely disrupted in the next 18 months. So, whether you're an employee, you have a business, if you're not already adopting AI, you're in trouble because it's going to become like electricity. It's going to be just normal, just like Wi Fi and data, things that we're just so used to having. That's going to be how AI is integrated into everything we do. So the small tasks that I was just talking about, there won't be room for founders to focus on those anymore. If you're focusing on those, you've already lost. You're going to fall behind your competition because what people are already doing cross industry right now is implementing tools to take care of what we call the $10 tasks, the mundane things, the energy drainers, anything that drains your energy should be replaced by AI or a team member who doesn't get drained by those same type of tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. And what's one simple AI shift That dramatically reduces overwhelm for most teams.
I always say start with your calendar and inbox. Just like with an EA, that's the first thing you want them to focus on. With AI, even my EA uses AI to focus on my calendar and inbox. So setting scheduled meetings, filtering emails, helping with drafts. The biggest thing though is making sure whatever tool you use, because there are lots of tools out there nowadays, is training the AI. You don't wanna use untrained AI because that's gonna cause more issues with your clients. If it doesn't sound like you, if it's taking things out of context, your your customers, your staff are gonna get confused. It's really important that you train the AI based on your SOPs and your company, your tone and brand.
Mhm. Yeah, and when technology becomes a partner instead of a pressure point, it opens incredible space for creativity and rest.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, a partner instead of a pain point, pressure point. That's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you advocate for building big things without burning out. So, what belief do entrepreneurs need to let go of to make that possible?
The biggest thing is simpler than you think. People don't get what they want in life, they get what they believe they deserve. And that's the truth about manifestation, right? Manifestation isn't about just hopeful thinking and wishing something's going to come true. It's really believing in your core that you deserve the things you're wanting. So if you want to make $1 million, do you believe you can make $1 million? Do you believe you're valuable enough to make $1 million? Because you can only attract what you are. And I think a lot of times we forget that and we just focus on, setting goals and wishful thinking and, I'm going to get rich, like just like the mantra of like, I'm going to get rich. But it's not about a mantra. It's about really getting that belief in your core. And so the best and biggest thing an entrepreneur can do is work on their internal life because your internal world creates your external world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And once they release it, how does it reshape the way they lead and they build?
When it comes from a place of feeling worthy, feeling like enough, you lead much different. This is something I used to struggle with as a leader. I deep down, I didn't feel like I was good enough. And so even though on the outside I was very charismatic, I was winning awards, I was doing big things on paper and in real time, but internally I didn't feel like I was enough. And that was subconsciously driving my behaviors. It was driving my leadership. And so sometimes, and this again goes back to that emotional shrapnel I mentioned, sometimes I would start blowing up relationships or coming off more intense or self sabotaging my own team because I was driven by this I'm not enough this. But once you do that inner work and really get to a place where you know you're enough, you lead out of a place of security. You lead out of a place of peace. And that creates a very different culture and a very different environment in which teams can thrive and you can really mentor and coach those around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that internal release is often turning point where effort becomes aligned rather than exhausting.
Absolutely. If you're not moving forward out of a place of passion and peace, eventually you're gonna run out of energy.
Mhm. Yes, 100%. So, thank you for listening to this conversation on creating meaningful success without sacrificing your well being. If something resonated today, let this be it. Your energy is your most valuable asset, and protecting it is not a luxury, it's a strategy. Take one intentional step tonight towards working smarter, living fuller, and building what truly matters.